beforehand. Okay? We know the Middle Ages was a time of turmoil. We know the Middle Ages was controlled by the Catholic Church. Okay? The Catholic Church told you how to think, how to act, what is right, what is wrong. There is no self-identity in the Middle Ages. You didn't have a last name. And if you did, it was just what job you had, or your owner, where you worked, where you worked. Okay? If your last name was Smith, that means you were a blacksmith. Okay? If your last name was Woods, you worked with building furniture and stuff. Okay? Middle Ages was a time, now it was a time of progress. Okay? But it wasn't as fast as what's going to come in the Renaissance. Don't get this idea that nothing happened in the Middle Ages. Because one of the greatest inventions actually occurred in the Middle Ages. In the 1400s. The printing press. Johannes Gutenberg's printing press. Now, there are events that actually shaped the Middle Ages. Of course, the most important one was the Black Plague, Black Death, where thousands and millions of people are going to die, and they didn't know what caused it. You had other peasant rebellions. You had wars. The Vespers are basically when Sicily kicked the French out of Sicily. Don't worry about it. Okay, but understand, you notice there's lots of conflicts. 100 Years' War, which you all read about over the summer. Okay, the rise of heretics, John Huss, Wycliffe, and others. Okay, and the communications revolution, of course, is the printing press. Instead of books being handwritten, now books are going to be produced with the printing press. But they're still quite expensive. And of course, very few people can actually read. Even wealthy people basically couldn't read. You guys can hear me out here, right? Awesome. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, my voice is going. I don't know what's happening. Okay.
Get a microphone.
No. I have this here to basically differentiate the Renaissance and the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, you had scholasticism. Scholasticism was this idea by St. Thomas Aquinas, okay, saint of the Catholic Church, that basically said everything can be explained through God. Anything reasonable can be explained through God. Okay? This also kind of goes along with the Aristotle way of thinking. Okay? So if I threw Peter out the window, why does he fall down to earth? Because that's what God wanted for Peter. Okay? Okay? Now, in the Middle Ages, you had one job, and that was to get to heaven. Live your life to prepare for death. That was your one goal in life. You didn't care about being famous. Most art pieces don't have any names in the Middle Ages of who painted it, because it's not about you being famous. It's about you just getting to heaven. Okay. But when the Renaissance occurs in the 1400s, of course, the Renaissance occurs where first? In the Italian Peninsula. Excellent. Okay. This is when people start kind of moving away from the church a little bit. Everyone's still very religious. Don't get me wrong. People went to church like almost every day. Okay. On Sunday, most of the day. But people are starting to say, maybe we could think for ourselves. Because the church didn't help us with the Black Death. The church didn't help us when we needed them. So people are moving a little bit away from it. The new monarchs in Spain, in France, in England, they're starting to do their own thing and not worry about the church. Okay? The ideal during the Renaissance was all about, not about getting to heaven. Live your life. Be well-rounded. Be the best that you can be. Be educated. Be well-mannered. Be well-dressed. Be a good military artist. Yes?
Why are they called new?
The new monarchs, I think it's coming up, anytime. But the new monarchs are basically these monarchs. We're talking about Isabella and Ferdinand. We're talking about the Valois of France. We're talking about the Tudors of England. These new monarchs are going to combine many different kingdoms into the states that we know of: Spain, France, England, etc. Okay. Now, yes.
My question is, was the Black Death, was that the only reason why folks started to not trust the church?
That's one of the reasons. Well, they started becoming they're starting to be like, well, if the church wasn't there for us, the church wasn't there for all these wars to try to bring peace, maybe, the church isn't necessary. And they're also hearing a lot about what's happening in the church, the corruption. And they're like, well, why are we listening to this entity that it doesn't have our needs? Okay. So the ideal is to be well-rounded. Think of the statue of David. Think of the statue of David. He's muscular. He's athletic. He's supposed to be. He's smart. Okay. He's basically everything you could think of an ideal man, a Renaissance man would be. That is the goal of every single male. Okay. Okay. Okay, so technically the Renaissance occurs from the 1400s to the 1600s. During that same time, we have the Reformation, we have the Scientific Revolution, okay, and the start of Louis the 14th reign. So basically, if you think about this, everything we covered in units 1, 2, 3, and part of 4 is all happening during the Renaissance. So almost the entire first semester is during the Renaissance, with the exception of the Enlightenment and the French Revolution. Okay. So, when it comes to literature, you're talking about secularism, away from topics that don't deal with the church. We're talking about humanism. Humanism is this idea about being well-rounded, which is right there. It's a wide range of topics. The first book ever written, okay, by a guy by the name of Cellini. 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 He wrote the first book. Anybody remember? It's the first type of book in this category. What was it?
Autobiography.
Yeah. He wrote the book called Autobiography, and it was about himself. That is like the epitome of the Renaissance. It's all about me. I want to be famous.
What about the Bible?
What about the Bible?
Isn't that the first book?
I'm talking about the first book of the Renaissance. No. Okay, it's not the first book ever. I'm talking about it's the first autobiography ever written. Sorry. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, hold on. Let me clarify myself. The first book in the category that starts in the Renaissance, okay, in the autobiography section, okay, that is called autobiography. That was the name of the book. Okay, so that was the first book to actually be about a person, about himself, the writer. But yes, there's many other books before this, thousands, millions of books before it. Okay, I'm sorry that I misspoke. Yes. Petrarch is a thinker of Northern races. Okay. Now we know that the Renaissance starts in Italy and it's going to spread. It spreads along basically trading routes. Okay. It starts off because in northern Italy, Venice, Florence, these are the epicenters of trade. They are more susceptible to different thinking from people from Asia, Africa. So they're more acceptable to different thinking. This is why the current number system and the current letters come from this area. Okay, because they were exposed to many different ways of thinking. Okay, now, okay, during the Renaissance, it's all about living the good life. Live for now, and don't worry about the afterlife yet. Live while you're alive, sleep when you're dead kind of mentality. Live the good life. Be rich. Be famous. Be all that. These are some of the Renaissance ideals. Okay. Of course, the Renaissance is occurring in the northern part of Italy, which is the more urban areas. Southern Italy, the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, no Renaissance whatsoever. Because it's all about farming. Renaissance occurs in more urban areas. Okay, this is where you're going to, during the Renaissance, of course, it's we're moving away from scholasticism and trying to find out how things actually work. Sorry.
Wait, where was it?
It was not in the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, which is southern Italy.
So is it
Northern Italy, like from Rome upward.
Okay.
Does that mean the South is poor?
Yes, the South is always poor. It still is.
Okay.
The Sicily, the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, was always a farming area. Okay, was always a farming area, and the Renaissance is only occurring in the more urban areas. The more urban areas would be up north, in the northern part of Italy. Okay. Classical learning. Okay, when it comes to learning during the Renaissance, you're learning. Okay, you're learning about the liberal arts. Have you ever wondered why you have to take science, math, English, history, language, English, everything? Okay, all these different subjects. Okay, and that's because it's called liberal arts. It's so that you're well-rounded. Just like the first 2 years of college, okay, all those classes you have to take, that's not in your degree, is so that you're well-rounded. You'd be very boring if you only studied math. Okay. The liberal arts comes from the Renaissance. Okay. The liberal arts comes from the Renaissance because you're learning about different subjects. You're learning about the ancient times. You're learning about modern times. You're learning about the vernacular, which is the local language. You're also learning about other languages. Again, you're being well-rounded, just like you all are. You all are studying English, language, history, math, you name it. Okay. Now, the Renaissance does start in. Of course, Italy, but eventually it is going to spread. Okay. The Renaissance outside of Italy is called the Northern Renaissance. So whether you're talking about Spain, France, England, it's all the Northern Renaissance. Okay. Well, HRA, yes. Okay. Now, it's also going to be called, Northern Renaissance is also called Christian humanism. Christian humanism. Because whereas the Northern Renaissance, whereas the Italian Renaissance was all about how to be a better person, it was more secular. Northern Renaissance is going to be about how to be a better Christian.
Can you repeat that?
Okay? Italian Renaissance was all about being just a better person. Northern Renaissance took those ideas and included how to be a better Christian. Okay? Now, as you're reading your AP Achievers to study, they give you a tip of like all the, you need to know all the different humanists. Not necessarily, but you need to be able to use some of them as examples for humanism. Okay. These are some of the more important humanists during this time period. Most of them, some of them are from the Italian Renaissance. Some of them are from Northern Renaissance. Okay. I'll go back to art in a second. I skipped over that. Okay. Pico della Mirandola created the Oration of the Dignity of Man. This was basically, it celebrates man's greatness, celebrates man's potential. You could do this. You got this. You are well-rounded. You are athletic. You are a military person. You are smart. You are cultured. You know how to use utensils, which, by the way, were created during the Renaissance. So instead of using your hands, you use utensils. Petrarch created the term Dark Ages because during what he called during the Middle Ages, not as much happened as during the Renaissance. Lorenzo Valla, he questioned the Catholic Church. Okay, he studied linguistics and syntax and such. Okay, for fun, he diagrammed sentences. Okay, and what he found out was this document called a Donation of Constantine that the Pope had used to say, hey, kings, the Pope is more powerful than anybody because Constantine, the founder, one of the last Roman emperors, okay, basically said popes are more important than kings. So the popes would hold this up and say, look, Constantine said this. But in reality, Valla said he looked at the words that are used, and he said those words are too modern. Those words are from recent times, last couple hundred years. It's not from 1,000 years earlier. So think about this. Think of the courage it took for Valla to basically question the Catholic Church. Anybody that questioned the Catholic Church, you became like a barbecue. Okay? But the Donation of Constantine, he said, this is false, this is a lie.
Wait, was he himself religious?
Yeah, he was religious. He was religious.
So he just thought it was way too right.
Yeah, he was religious, yes.
Ah.
He characterized.
You I don't do it for one.
Okay.
Aiden, say hi to YouTube.
Castiglione. The Book of Courtier talked about all the positive state or traits that men should have. Basically talking about being a well-rounded person. But he was one of the first people to talk about women. and said women, Renaissance women, should be basic. They should be able to have a basic conversation with men. How's the weather? How's your day? Okay, they should also basically be able to present themselves as pretty. Okay? Renaissance women, okay, should learn, go to school for womanly subjects like arts. Okay? What? Okay. Machiavelli created the prince. Machiavelli created the prince. The prince is all about how to be an ideal ruler. Okay? Be like a lion and a fox. Be as strong as a lion, but cunning as a fox. It's better to be it's better to be feared than loved, according to Machiavelli. With Erasmus, okay. Erasmus is one of the founders of Northern Renaissance, Christian humanism. And he said, why do we rely on one individual, a priest? Yeah, why do we rely on them to translate the Bible, decipher the Bible? Bible should be read in the vernacular. At this point, the Catholic Church does not allow anybody to have a Bible other than priests. So, Erasmus, in his Praise of Folly, questions the ideas of the church and says Bible should be written in the vernacular, which means the local language. No, because Erasmus was extremely religious and he came from Northern Europe. The farther you are from Rome, the more likely you're not going to get persecuted. The closer you are to Rome and you question the church, the likelihood you are going to get persecuted. But Erasmus was extremely religious. He did not question the doctrines of the church. He did not question how to get to heaven or anything. He questioned the leadership of the church. And things like why can't people read the Bible? Things like that. Patrick.
So what happened to Lorenzo Valla, an Italian who questioned the Catholic Church directly?
Believe it or not, he was heavily supported by rich people, and he was protected. The Pope basically said, "I know nothing about this document. I was given this when I became Pope." So he kind of played it off. Last but not least, Sir Thomas More wrote Utopia. Okay, Utopia was about being tolerant to all religions, be tolerant to people that are different, and create a society where there's no government, there's no official religion, and everyone just works for the betterment of society. This is where we get utopian socialism from Unit 7, 6 or 7. Okay, where everyone is equal, everyone works together. Now, didn't talk about women as much. Okay, there are a few women of importance during the Renaissance. Christine de Pizan, P-I-Z-A-N. Christine de Pizan, P-I-Z-A-N. Okay. She's one of the first women authors. She's one of the first women authors. Some consider her a feminist. She talked about women and what women should do and what women can do. Now, please understand, there's no such thing as feminism back then. No one said women should have rights. Yeah, no. That doesn't happen until really the 1800s. Okay? Another woman, Isabella d'Este. D apostrophe E-S-T-E. Isabelle d'Este. D apostrophe E-S-T-E. She's not a feminist, but she wrote about women. She said women should be patrons of the art. They should decorate their houses with Renaissance artists, paintings. Okay? That their key job is to support the man. Yes?
Was it,
She is, yeah, I said it. She's kind of, Cressida Paisan is considered the first feminist. Okay? But no one really called themselves feminists, and no one called for equality for women. Even though, yes, she is the first feminist, she didn't say women should have the same rights as men. Isabel d'Este said women should be supporting their husbands, should be pretty, should be patrons of the arts. When it comes to art, you know, don't go crazy about knowing all the different artists. Okay. When it comes to art, I would look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle artists: Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, Leonardo. Okay, Donatello, Raphael, Leonardo, Michelangelo. Okay.
You messed up Raphael.
Oh, and Raphael.
and that's
Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo. Whatever. Now. Okay. Yes.
Wasn't Cosimo de Medici patron of the arts?
Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to art, art changes during the Renaissance. During the Middle Ages, it was flat, 2D. Okay. And during the Renaissance, they started experimenting by using light to show depth, called chiaroscuro. And it becomes more lifelike, more 3D. Okay? If you look at some of the great artwork of the day, okay, it looks 3D. Whereas you look at Middle Ages, it was very flat and unrealistic. But when you look at paintings like the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, whatever, you'll notice 3D and a lot of the use of lights to show depth. Okay. Now in Italy, there are lots of different subjects when it comes to art. There were self-portraits, there were church scenes, religious scenes. There were just lots. It depends on who bought it. The Catholic Church were big supporters of the arts because if you supported the arts, you were wealthy. If you had lots of paintings, a lot of frescoes in your house, hey, you're wealthy. You're showing off your wealth. Frescoes are painted directly on plaster.
Oh,
Okay. In the north, yes. Chiaroscuro, using light to show depth. Now, Northern Renaissance is a little bit different. Northern Renaissance has a lot of religious ideas, religious subjects. But also a lot of middle class scenes. Because in places like Amsterdam and England, okay, the middle class are making lots of money. So they're supporting Northern Renaissance art. So they want scenes of everyday life of the middle class, okay, their life. So you're going to see the artwork in Northern Renaissance be more of everyday scenes, and also religious scenes.
So when did the middle class evolve into the wealthy bourgeoisie?
During the Commercial Revolution, which is starts during this time, when exploration really starts. Okay. You guys need a stretch break?
No.